I am shocked, Hysterics.
Oh,
if you could see my jaw, it is on the floor right now. But yeah, I think especially now for Leyan though, this is just screams Rumble. Like, get that pick for yourself. Gonna work out really well. It looks like they are going to go towards Viego. Now again, don't forget we did see the flexibility here between Leyan and FoFo. So they may then end up giving across the Rumble here to Shadow in lieu of trying to keep that flexibility open for the draft.
All right, well, you get the Viego, you know that you're sacrificing the Rumble straight up away. Unless, okay, never mind, put it in a lane.
Yeah, so it looks like they're just actually going to go, hey, look, Leyan, FoFo, Rumble, Viego. We're just going to go for this, see if we can make some plays happen with Viego being able to get some of the CC to unleash the Rumble in that lane, but also kind of setting up in the later points of the game for separating out these fights. Because again, Viego does very well in these kind of isolated skirmishes. So if a Rumble equalizer is able to spread out these fights, it does lend itself pretty well towards the way Viego wants to play.
And which is why we look towards LGD and their response to it is like, well, the only thing left open available that's S or A tier jungling is that Udyr. The Renekton would mean that we put ourselves on a pretty big lane if that goes up towards Garvey, a champion that we could expect him to play. And yeah, there you go. Shadow might be paying more attention up top if that definitely is going to be Garvey's Renekton.
Yeah, and especially with things like the set gone away, it feels like this Renekton is just like, cool, we can just take this pick, actually look to ban away some top laners here as well that may cause issues, anything like a Kennen or something like a Jace, and just let Garvey have his own time on that top side while we focus our attention elsewhere. Now, of course, with the Ezreal locked in, it means that more than likely we are going to see some sort of pressure towards Xiye, and you could give some pressure up towards Garvey as well, and just kind of forget about Kramer as he farms his way through that bottom side of the map.
As he's going to do. We don't even have to question that, as he's going to do. Furthermore, bans here from RA. It's going to be the Orianna taken away from Xiye, and Xiye does have like a pretty wide champion pool, but I feel like in the past, or at least in the 2020 year, remember things like his Cassidy, the Silas we've already mentioned there as well. Xiye's Twisted Fate is really good. However, are we going to see that with a Renekton? Maybe, maybe not. Let's find out. A Kramer fan. There we go. It's about time. There's not many left over. He didn't have a very good 2020 year. Didn't have a good last split either, Dagda, so nice to see it. Quite refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, LGD, obviously one of the more popular teams in China, but I don't think they were particularly happy with the way that the last split went, if you're a fan. And Kramer, honestly, I think had one of the worst splits that we've seen from him in a long, long time. His laning phase looks really bad when it came to working with Chance and Peace, but certainly back with Mark, hopefully that can bring a little bit more stability to that bottom side. Now, looking though, LGD ban away the Gwen, so still waiting to see what might be taken by RA into that top side of the map. I imagine we'll go towards something like the Nautilus here, coming through for RA, and there it goes, just because it works decently well against the Ezreal and sets up this Kaisa quite nicely and provides the CC Rumble needs. So far, RA kind of going to your bug standard, hey look, we're gonna team fight in around this mid game and then look to try and have our scaling option in the Viego and this Kaisa to a certain extent as well.
It's definitely like a composition that once it gets off the ground, it's hard to really stop the snowball rolling. I feel like LGD can do that to an extent. We've already got the Renekton, the Udyr, Ezreal going to be farming as you mentioned, and we've got the Leona as a potential. Mark is definitely someone who this whole split we're going to be saying, well, if Leona's open, he's going to play it. And there we go yet again as Zoe as a potential. We'd get part of Team Rocket. Let's find out, Dagda. There it is. Okay. We get Team Rocket with a Sun Goddess in the mix.
So I actually would love to see the Gangplank here. It hasn't been banned away, and GP works very well against the Renekton. You can just try and farm it out. But again, when you're looking towards champions like Zoe, they hate these picks like the Gangplank. And again, it's very similar to what JDG did with Zoom taking the Gangplank. Use that ultimate to help close the gap against LGD. Now, instead of going for the big old cannon barrage, they're just going to go for the big old ram horn instead and see if they can use that as their engage tool on towards picks like Xiye and Shadow.
Layering these ultimates down for Rare Adam Dagda look pretty nice. You know, you already mentioned the Ram Jam there. We also have the Heartbreaker from Viego, but I think more importantly, Ram Jam plus Red Carpet equals success here for Rare Adam.
Yeah, I think especially if you're looking at these objective fights, right? LGD can look to try and poke from over walls and use like the ability of Kramer, especially since they're going to be on the blue side. But I think if you look towards like dragons and that, but when we look towards the ability for LGD to actually like hard force these fights, you're heavily reliant on like Mark and to try and set these up. And as we saw in the last game, that's not always the best way for you to go.
No, it's not. And those fights for them, you know, poking down with Ezreal, Zoe, also playing interference again with things like Udyr, Renekton, it feels like they are just body blockers that are going to have to give time for LGD in fights, because otherwise, again, those ultimates layered down, a quick team fight from Adam feels like a success to bring them into a game 3. But kind of rounding this one out, I mean, LGD, they look like the more aggressive team, the team that could make better decisions. In game 1, they didn't hesitate. It was always Shadow and Mark moving together. Going into this second game, I want to see if they have that same kind of synergy, but more importantly, if Shadow pays attention to that mid lane, because Udyr, Zoe, there's a lot of CC. Level 3 is quite strong for both these guys, and the ability to crash down and try and destroy FoFo on this Viego.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here for Ornn is that, like, they have multiple engage tools, right? You already kind of looked at, like, the Ram Jam that you're talking about, but having that Nautilus hook into the ultimate is going to be able to, like, lock down some of these very mobile carries like the Ezreal, hell, even Garvey to a certain extent. But I think the big key champion they're going to be trying to jump on, as you kind of said already, is going to be Xiye. I feel like if Xiye ends up getting caught out, it's going to be such a disaster here for LGD. So Xiye is going to have his work cut out for him as he tries to keep himself safe, not only in the laning phase, but when we get to these later team fights as well.
Does he have the same game he had in game number 1? I mean, the game that was just so influential. Hopefully on the Zoe here, as we are in Hangzhou, ladies and gentlemen, heading onto the Rift for game 2. LGD's home arena. So, of course, the support for them is always going to be greater. Just a reminder, we can't hear the gyos, but you can, and hopefully they are joyous. Dagda, nothing changes with the rune set. Everything pretty standard here. It's not every day we see an Ornn, but we know that Ornn versus Renekton doesn't actually have that hard of a time. It's actually like two beefcakes running into each other, but once Ornn gets 3 and gets a combo with Brittle Slam, I forget the exact combo, you know, Ezreal's taught us a lot. It's actually not too bad, but starting off like this, the Bellows Breath there, and Garvey going to hit him for a couple more, while Grasp of the Undying means that Cube gets an even trade.
Yeah, you can see they go pretty much even there. Now, obviously, Garvey will be able to heal himself up off the wave, which does help out quite a bit. But still, yeah, it's not going to be a lane that, like, Cube is going to struggle in, really. So we're going to see pretty much just trading back and forth and no real issues. The question for me, though, is, like, how does this start to change when we look towards that mid and jungle role, right? Because obviously, Xiye is going to have that push in the mid lane. It's melee in towards something like the Zoe, who's so good at pushing in. So when I look at Shadow already pathing up towards the top side and Cube taking some heavy trading, I just think Xiye and Shadow could definitely make a trade up towards this top side and try and set up Xiye for a really strong mid game where LGD will be strongest.
It's something we've always seen in the LPL, you know, that early Zoe roaming, considering you have great wave clear, you can clear backline at like, what, 5 or essentially you get Lost Chapter and your paddle star will do the job for you. So, especially when you get items like an early gourd drinker here, that'll help him clear waves for sure. So you can see already, Dagda, you talked about the range is doing quite nicely for him. We'll see if he can move out a lane, and for Xiye, just make that little waddle up to the top side with Shadow, because Shadow is actually towards his blue camps for now. He's done a full clear. Leyan's doing the same, except he's towards the bottom side, but bottom is so far pushed out, there's not much you can do, and you're right. It looks like a mid game, because mid is the only lane right now that you'd look at, unless Leyan wants to try and pivot to top.
Yeah, I think Garvey might have actually mismanaged his wave there, though. It looks like he crashed in the second wave rather than the third, which means that there's actually an opportunity here for Cube to just freeze the wave outside his turret and prevent any sort of plays coming through. And when Cube, as we already talked about, taking a lot of damage, running low on mana, this makes things 10 times easier for Cube in his top lane. And you can see there Shadow just hovering mid, so Xiye can hard push this wave and get his own reset off.
Waiting in the brush. Remember, he's taken flash as well, so the slap could be there. Leyan backing away, though, after putting wards down. This is going to give full vision when the camps reset, or at least the pathing towards Krugs, as Kramer and Mark should be able to react if anything does actually break out. But pretty slow Rift game here so far. Every bit of CS is even enough. A small CS lead in that bottom lane that'll even up once the trade comes through. At least the minions crash on in. And Cube and Garvey Dagda, I hate to say it, but this is the most fun. I mean, the Ornn has so much kill potential, and even when he gets to 6, I definitely fear for Garvey.
Yeah, you can see though Leyan has moved up here. He's going to be on Krugs, but it might give the opportunity for some funky business. I imagine Garvey is going to just push this in and look for his own reset, but you do have to be careful. Hung in this mid lane though, again, a lot of pressure comes through from Hung towards his mid lane. He does this so often when you look at resets coming through from iBoy, so not going to be able to make anything happen, but still just, you know, giving a nod to his mid laner.
Yeah, you're right. Again, Hung's there again. He's just taking a different side of mid lane this time around. Mark going deep for the ward here. Now, will he be called out? Blast Cone is there. Shadow is moving, but Hung's going to spot him out with a ward of his own making. Mark has put in a control ward. He's put in a deep ward towards the blue buff as well. So both bottom lane camps are going to be monitored well by both junglers here. We'll see if that turns into a play, because remember, Dragon Spawn, it is an early mountain, and Leyan's just walked past the control ward. That has been pinged out for a support to take later, while he angles for a potential down bot.
Yeah, they're just kind of looking at this big wave thinking, hey, hang on, you can't push this in, as Hook does go wide. And even then, I think if you're getting to Kramer, I mean, you're not really going to be able to follow up too much. The arcane shift there, and not really any follow-up CC to be found. So I think it was a kind of a hopeful prayer that they're going to be able to make that work. But it's kind of been a bit of a slow game. So if this is going to be the case, I think it favors LGD for the moment. Like, Kramer wants to get towards his Divine Sunder before he really becomes relevant. When you look towards Xiye as well, you need that first mythic item, the Luden's Tempest, or I suppose the option to go for the Ever's Frost, but I prefer the Luden's Tempest here to really have that big impact to bot side.
You said it was slow, but now it's just sped on up, coming on down. Nice little maul there. Flash away from Kramer. The dive in the top lane. Cube's already used Call the Forge God with the Ram Jam down. Garvey trying to dive this up. Shadow gets knocked up, but that doesn't matter. Turret resets to a minion, and it's first blood over to the EUX player.
Yeah, and I love that we're seeing Shadow going for these heavy gank and dive plays, because this is where he looked great best. When we saw him in LEC, it was like going for these creative ganks and plays that oftentimes you think wouldn't pay off, Shadow would somehow make work. So now we're getting to see it again up against LGD here, or sorry, for LGD up against Ornn, and they're able to get that kill under the tower, give a little bit more wiggle room to Garvey. It will net Ornn, though, the dragon off the bat, just with all that pressure going topside for LGD.
But let's look realistic, right? We know that this game, Dagda, sure, there's a good amount of poke, there's good scaling, but I think when we get into the later portions, an Ornn, a Nautilus, there's going to be so much frontline that you can't get the poke past. It feels like LGD could be on that mid-game timer. You know, you already mentioned how these team comps like to play, especially with the Renekton there as well. It does feel like getting the game moving sooner rather than later is a benefit for LGD. That also means losing the dragon is a bit of a hindrance as well, considering RA are one step closer. Uh-oh, this is not good. Leon's going to spot him out. Smite goes over to Shadow. He gets a level lead, and Bear runs. All right, well, he's out of there. Never mind. Leon just says, see ya.
Yeah, I just want to go back on your point there, though, Hysterics, because I think you're right. Like, this is definitely a game for LGD where you've got a window to work around, and if you don't hit that window hard, you are going to fall off, because you've obviously got the Ornn items coming through, Viego scaling insanely well into the late game, and especially against, like, the melee champions like Mark, Shadow, Garvey. Like, he's going to be able to get a lot of work off of. So if you're not hitting hard between that, 15 to 25 minute mark, LGD are just going to kind of just get run over come the late game.
Yeah, I'm really curious to watch it in action. Of course, here comes the equalizer on top of Garvey. He has the dominance available, pops it a little bit late, gets the Fury, Cull the Meek, or rather Ruthless Predator. Dagda, I play Renekton. I keep getting the Q and W mixed up, but either way, he heals and he survives. He didn't have the flash, and Rare Adam are trying to punish that.
LGD might be punishing it, though. Okay. That's going to be the Rumble going down.
I don't think our cameraman expected that. Shadow just walks on in, gives one over to Garvey. 2 kills on the board for LGD in front of the Herald. And now all of a sudden, better tempo game here as Hung has moved on up. He wants to get himself in with the hook. Dredgeline meets with the Zenith Blade as FoFo gets burnt out, but Xiye has no mana. FoFo in the mist for now, looking to pick up his first mist Wraith as iBoys join the fight. Kramer on the wing as well. True Shot Barrage is available to lay it through. Zenith Blade comes in, Mark being a sacrificial lamb as all lines up, but Call of the Forge God is super neat as it's reset City for the Viego, but he's already dead. I look again and Shadow's still alive. LGD still have Kramer. They pick up more kills and it's 5 for 2 on the scoreboard. Back to the Herald.
And I don't understand why Ornn tried to contest that. Leyan is down. You have Kramer on the way, and hell, even if he doesn't, he's still got an arcane shot to have a huge amount of impact in that fight. So it means that LGD are going to be able to win it out regardless, and you end up giving more kills across, especially to that team that we were talking about who, hey, They want to play off the spike of Xiye off of one item and the Divine Sunder and that Muramana coming through from the Ezreal. Well, Kramer just got accelerated. He just got 2 kills there. He's going to be very quickly making his way towards that Divine Sunder. Hell, he might even have it now. And then you're going to be able to finish the Muramana coming through as well. Like, you've just sped up LGD so damn much. And you can see it here. Like, look at where Rumble is. So when Mark goes in here, you get True Shot Barrage straight across the top. They get a heap of damage in. And even with Xiye not having much in the way of mana, he's still getting so much off of just autos from being able to pick up all these summoner spells, being able to use that passive on the W, and getting a lot of work done alongside his team.
It's just hectic. Everyone was in a big flash mob that erupted all of a sudden. I think a big thing for me is Shadow with the stun on top of FoFo meant the damage could come through, and you're right, Kramer positioning huge. The Kramer that is going to get the Divine Sunderer, you pull out the item so perfectly, Dagda, because at this point, it is going to be massive against the Ornn, against the Nautilus. Herald also there to funnel some gold into Xiye or further into Garvey. This LGD squad in this series, I mean, they've been building on the chaos, but I think more importantly, their comms for a newer team are cleaner than you'd expect.
Definitely. And this is exactly what I want to see. Now, I mean, you're saying it's a newer team, right? But it's a lot of the same working parts that we've seen before. Yeah, exactly. Bring in the new old school, you know? But I'm going to hold on to a point here. Shadow is hovering topside, but now it looks like they're going to back away. I want to hit on, though, because Divine Sunder, we haven't seen a huge amount of it on the Ezreal against these big tanks. There's been a lot of it against bruisers. Now, because you actually end up doing a max health damage from the Divine Sunder, you tend to get through Ornn in that still relatively quickly. It's not like you have complete, just null factor against the Ornn. So at least here, the Ezreal, when you get that Surreal's Grudge as well, can do quite a bit of damage to Cube. Yeah. So it's not like the old school build where you just kind of do nothing the second a tank is in the game at 20-25 minutes.
I mean, you brought up Surreal's Grudge. That with Divine Sunder, I mean, that's going to destroy Ornn. So I think, you know, establishing as well, Dagda, you and I talking a lot about comps. It is a good discussion because it's more about how the comps interact with each other. But if this Ezreal has a lead, you know, I guess the front line can be shredded through. I guess you look at Ornn, you look at Nautilus, and it's like, well, at the end of the day, if those ultimates are down from Rare Atom, maybe it's not more about scaling, maybe it's more about how the application of these comps run into each other, and if LGD have that lead at the 15-25 minute mark.
Well, they're trying to see if they can extend that lead here. Dragon does go down as Ornn.
Mark's made a flash. Zenith Blade doesn't connect onto Hung. The Equalizer, great Shadow zoned away, running away now from Cube. Let's call the Forge God. It is going to be Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but not in time. On the back line, Rare Atom have just destroyed Mark while Xiye back at the pit. Kramer not applicating damage, and Garvey's going to drop as well. Rare Atom picked them to pieces, and LGD lose too.
I'm so sorry, but I don't think Mark could have fumbled that any worse than he did. Flashing in, misses the auto attack, misses the Zenith Blade, and then because LGD are all gung-ho to follow up, Ornn are able to collapse so well. So, yeah, a bit of a blunder coming through from the LGD support, and now Ornn, they've got control. So, you've got 3 tower plates that are already gone in bot, 2 added to the mix from that mid lane, 1 are gone in top as well. So it's why, despite the fact that we've seen LGD having decent control over this game, there's a slight gold lead already for Ornn in this game.
Again, just like the last game, right? LGD were winning some of these fights. Obviously, the last one was an exception, but it changed when RA always had that good side lane control, always were managing their waves as Herald pushes down mid. Turret plating was still available, so Xiye was able to pick up some of it, while Garvey up in this top lane doing just fine for now, but Bellows Breath going to help clear out the wave so Cube can make sure he backs off. Dagda, this is LGD going aggressive, but they're on a ward, and this could bite them in the butt.
Yeah, the Equalizer is there, you're just waiting.
And
actually,
I guess Leyan is now on a ward. Well, tit for tat. There, goodbye, Leyan. Yep, Shadow picks up the kill, and you know, maybe that was a long con.
I don't know why he went in though, because I was looking to be like, okay, cool, Leon's going to go there, see if he's going to get the follow-up support, but it never was coming, and now Cube is in danger because
Shadow's just running at him, flash away from Cube while Shadow's tanking up the turret like all good junglers should. Garvey continuing the dive here, the stun's there, they survive, and Garvey lives on to tell the tale. Shadow kill number 4, and dude, this is starting to get real jungle gappy.
Yeah, definitely. The problem, though, is you'd love those kills to be kind of anywhere else. And maybe apart from Mark, because Kramer, Xiye, and hell, even Garvey would love to be able to get some of these kills, start to accelerate themselves. But with the amount of pressure that LGD have been able to put on the map, they are in a good spot where now turrets are going down. FoFo will trade on the opposite side, but at least this mid game that we were talking about, the spikes that we wanted them to hit, are still pretty on time.
Well, Dagda, speaking of time, let's count it down. 2 minutes 30 till the next dragon, because I feel like this is when we're going to get our resolution as to what this game's going to look like. I think the Divine Sunder against the Ornn's going to hurt. The Ornn that has hardly any items. He's got the Bammy Cinder. He's got the really, really bad Bramble Vest now. But just remember that item is poopy.
Do you know what happens, Hysterics, when you have an OP item? Do you know how you counter it? You build it yourself. And that's why we look at FoFo, and Viego is actually got a Divine Sunder as well.
Sure.
So this build, I actually really, really like, because I played a little bit in solo queue, and that you get a heap of healing coming through. You're dealing 14% of the max health. So people like Garvey, like Shadow, hell, even Mark, you can do them so damn well. And when we know Ornn are going to be playing this front to back style of team fight, you can actually take a brunt of damage, heal it up super effectively, and it's like the best of both worlds for having the lifesteal that you need to deal with the kind of poke that's coming through.
Yeah.
But also just being that tanky front line as well.
Mark close, or rather hung close, excuse me, with the dredge line. Kramer getting pulled in wouldn't be the end of the world as he true shot barrages out, dodged away by iBoy. And folks, we are just gearing up for a minute 10 when the dragon comes up. We'll look more at items, Dagda, because it's telling that Xiye does not have his first item. Actually, teleports back in. He's got the Everfrost now. So, not really worried about penetration for the front line. Worried more about defensive measures against Viego, against iBoy, and just Everfrost being an all-round great item since about 4 patches ago. Dagda, I want to bring to your attention that we almost have 2 items here for iBoy, who's been a quiet achiever, who's got a CS lead, and almost has himself, going for Phantom Dance or Rapid Fire, good Everfrost in the mid lane. So he's actually on par with Kramer, if not more.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see him go for the early Lord Dominics though, because I know the Zeal is nice, but at this stage, with the amount of tankiness that Shadow's going to offer, same when you look towards Garvey, hell, even Mark as well, the early LDR is going to do a lot of work here. It's why we haven't actually seen him pick up that Collector, because he just knows that I am definitely going to need some armor shred to get through this team. But overall, the LGD, look, we've seen them have some good picks. Now they're looking at these turrets as well, and they're going to move back over towards Dragon. The big worry for them is actually FoFo on this top lane, because he's got the solo turret, but he's had a lot of time to farm up there. Now Ornn are investing a whole heap of him into a mid lane. He's the highest level in the game, kind of matching against, well, I was going to say Garvey, Shadow, and Xiye, sure. But it feels like for Ornn, a lot of their eggs are in this FoFo basket right now.
And they are, and I think mentioning side lane as well. Viego not that bad at split pushing turrets because of the attack speed he gets with Harrowed Path, because of how quickly he can push it down. I think it's important to note that leave FoFo alone for long enough, and he is definitely going to be a threat. And definitely a threat against Garvey at this point in the game, thanks to the OP item you talked about. It is just turret push for turret push at this point. 3 turrets apiece, 1k gold lead, if even that for LGD. And the dragon going down as well. An Ocean Soul this game, Dagda. And I will say firmly, whoever gets this Ocean Soul, it feels like we'll be taking the game.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, especially for Ornn, they would love to get their hands on even a couple of these Ocean Dragons. The sustain against the poke composition, the soul against that poke composition is going to do wonders. But we'll have to see if they're going to be able to get that set up. At least for LGD, now, I keep kind of saying poke. Now, the ability for them to play at range is really strong. Their team fight is not terrible either. It's just, again, this is the window where they need to be making that happen. Because when we start to get towards 3 items for Ornn, FoFo picking up his 3rd item, you can see him going for the Blade of the Rune King now, but when he goes towards Randuin's Omen after this and starts to get a Spirit Visage, this then becomes unkillable, and you're really going to struggle as LGD.
You are, and I think you're right. You just mentioned the poke comp, you're right, it has elements to it as well. You know, we already talked about how it operates. I also want to mention, I forgot something last game. Last game was actually Kramer's 200th game. It's like his birthday, except, you know, he's played that much on stage. Just a reminder that Kramer's been in the LPL for a little bit now. More importantly, you know, he was on Flash Wolves. Kramer, we remember, on a Freak of Freaks. He's been to so many different leagues, so it's kind of exciting that, you know, we talk about, Shadow debuting in a roster with a man who has been on many different rosters in a couple of different regions. The man we call him many talents, who had a bit of a rough last year. And this game is kind of set up for success again. Dagda, look, almost towards his second item, trying to get that Muramana, which will be fully upgraded.
Yeah, and I think that was something that Shadow definitely benefited from with Humanoid, was having someone that could at least... I know Humanoid was still relatively new, but someone that he can kind of lean on to help like pave the way for him for a certain extent. Like, especially in this series where you're looking at him playing alongside Xiye, Kramer. These are all guys that have been here a long time and can help us.
I'm not sure if Garvey can win this 1v1, but it depends. FoFo heals up a second. Shadow here's not going to make it fair. He's not leaving it up to chance, as there's the Heartbreaker flash. FoFo goes back in on top of Garvey, but he's healed up. Cube comes in with the Ram Jam, Equalizer down, and bam! There goes Garvey. Shadow out as well. Rare Adam lose their mid laner, who tried to play with fate.
And they committed so much from Ornn to try and help that play turn around. Whereas, you know, for LGD, they didn't blow summoner spells. They didn't blow time on the map. They'd already committed to this play. So now Kramer gets an opportunity to shove in mid. You can have the opportunity for LGD to start to get some of this vision control over on the Baron as well. And it's a nice pick off from LGD.
Really is. Continues to show us that, you know, there is a lot of damage on this side, that people like Garvey as well still in a very good position. We're looking at iBoy, who used his cleanse in that trade walking up. Oh no, he got trouble bubble, Dagda. So she actually hit him on the side.
It's very small on my screen.
That's okay. So we had to squint like we're, you know, 80 years old. There's nothing to it. Just gonna squint that extra bit harder. Anyone wondering? You know, we are on monitors. We are on what are these called? Computers. But more importantly, you know, we're in a program. Holy moly, dude, I sound like a boomer now.
We're on computers. In case anyone didn't know, League of Legends does take place on a PC.
I'm sorry, I'm not playing on my
PC stands for
iPad.
personal computer.
Oh man, maybe it's been a long night for me. It hasn't even been that long of a night. We had a 2-0. We went straight into this series. I can't even use that as an excuse, especially not when you guys dealt with a 1.5 hour pause that now bans Hex Flash. That was something.
Yeah.
Hey, LGD starting it off. Shadow actually running in. The equalizer on top though, but the solar flare, it finally hits from Mark, but where's the follow-up damage? Kramer's throwing away missing shot. There's Cube just goes in for the searing charge and griefs. Now Rare Adam don't have their frontliners. iBoy hits into the backline, but FoFo has joined in the play. He's got the Heartbreaker down. Reset City, but stunned on up. Shadow slapped him. Mark hit him with the shield, and LGD hit them all with their wallets.
And LGD did such a good job there. We said this is the moment when they're strongest. It's this 2-item spike coming through from the Ezreal, the 1.5-item spike coming through for Xiye, and now they win the fight at Dragon. They turn towards Baron, and they are in control of this game.
Someone needs to question Cube. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if the volcanic rupture dissembled and he, tried to charge into it, but that hurt a lot. As teleport coming down. They don't even want to give the dragon. Garvey's like, no, iBoy died to die. Runs over him. That was rough to watch. And now LGD moved to Soul Point. Dagda, this is not looking good for RA.
It really isn't, but it is for LGD fans, for fans that stuck with them through that spring split where they finished 15th and couldn't muster much. Now they get to see LGD coming back and looking so strong against Ornn. And you can see here, Mark, great solar flare there, completely shuts them off. iBoy is not in a position to take this fight because Garvey is doing such a good job of zoning him off. You get 1 to 2 autos from iBoy. He even gets CC'd at the back of that, and he's kind of just locked out for too much of this fight. So by the time FoFo manages to scoot around the back as well, LGD have already done the damage and they picked up the fight.
I just don't know what Cube was trying to achieve. I mean, head first, question later. You know, like, I know Ornn is not Mundo, but he is big tank. He's a fridge. And sometimes
Cube just got told that sometimes you have to use your head, and he just took that literally. you know?
Yeah, unlucky. Shout out to whoever designed the new Mundo, by the way. Actually, banger design. I look forward to playing it. Bit of a tangent, but let me bring you back in. We do have some good tank shredding items on FoFo, but Dagda with the 5k gold lead, with Soul Point coming up, I'm starting to fear here for Rare Adam because we have a lot of tank shredding on the side of LGD too, but more importantly, Horizon focus from Xiye is going to destroy iBoy and FoFo, as we've already seen here. Burst is down onto Hung, Solar Flare from Mark, but he's going to be knocked up a little bit deep here from LGD. Still good damage from Xiye. FoFo's being spotted out, stunned down by Garvey, but the low HP bar. Kramer, true shot barrage, and he annihilates the old man with a hammer.
Well, we're still going to keep going. LGD is going to still fight this. Leyan forced to flash away as FoFo will hightail it for the base as well. But LGD kind of got away with murder on that play because the amount of damage that was ticking over from Leyan in that fight because the equalizer made it look like LGD might have actually bitten off more than they can chew. But they do get the kill onto the cube. They will get this tower in the top lane and they will back away safely.
Dagda, this roster is so hot right now. Like, LGD in this series have blazed their way in, you know, a blaze of glory coming in. I've just now referenced 3 Will Ferrell movies. It's still a 5k
Perfect.
gold
That's
lead.
what we want.
If anyone didn't get the Anchorman reference at the start, I'm pretty disappointed. Time to go and rewatch it, but every play is turning out in their favor, right? Mark still dies there, but the trade's still good because this team that has Baron can push in these waves, set up to control vision all towards the enemy side of the map, and make sure their next pick leads to the next dragon, which is Soul, or leads to an inhibitor. They're forcing their way through mid for now anyway.
Yeah, and they've so much control, they're free to do this. Garvey's going to go prep away bot, but you can see Ornn, they kind of have nothing left in the tank right now. FoFo isn't in position to try and help out. LGD have the range, their siege is incredibly strong, and the wave clear is so lacking from Ornn before it hits the tower. You really need like Leyan to be in melee range, same nearly with iBoy, so trying to deal with these waves is becoming so difficult for them.
Every time they walk up, they have to think about committing Cube's ulti, Leyan's ulti, just to defend. Meanwhile, in another lane, I mean, someone like Kramer is just holding the wave, or you can see Xiye hanging off to the side as well. There's so much wave clear here, especially with the Zoe at this point, Dagda. Things are looking good. Now LGD just have to get to closing it out. They've gotten 2 inner turrets, but the Baron has now expired. 2 minutes 10 till it comes back up. But more importantly, we're looking at the timer in the top left hand of our screen. They have a huge lead. They should be able to force for this dragon and get the soul.
And that's the big problem. Is like, you can already see all the deep vision that's in the jungle of Ornn. You've got to go clear that out and then try and get into river. Ornn are trying to desperately shove out these waves so they can maybe buy a bit of time, but it's not going to look too good for them.
Well, Shadow getting charged on, sent back there. Nice little morph from FoFo to get the stun up as well. Rare Adam grouping up themselves as Hung has joined the play onto Shadow. Nice sidestep. Garvey and Mark joining from the top of the play while Xiye's on the rear. FoFo still in enemy fog of war as his own camouflage. And this is quite tense. There's the trouble bubble from Xiye. Little depth charge available. No, he uses the dredge line instead. Backline. Look, Garvey's there on top of FoFo. Solar Flare locks him down. FoFo has to flash away. Well, Cube's getting poked as well. Xiye there misses everyone, but another trouble bubble onto Hung. As Kramer still, look at this poke coming through from the Ezreal. Depth charge now used onto the AD carry. Call the Forge God. Lines up Kramer. Launched on as well. The AD carry from LGD down. While Mark and Shadow have to rejoin the play. But watch Xiye untouched while FoFo is playing as Ezreal. Mark goes down for a double. Rare Adam, may this be it? As Garvey needs to spin to heal. He goes golden, but the health bars on Rare Adam are so damn low. Garvey running for his life. Shadow re-engaging with Xiye on the Ornn. He's picked up a flash. He uses it. The trouble bubble there as well. Hung so low. LGD running for their lives, but Hung brings it back in. Shadow cleans him up, but now he has to get the hell out of there.
And that fight was so good for Ornn, finding the pick onto Kramer. Now Shadow in a 1v1 duel against FoFo that he has no hope of winning. Garvey has TP back in. They want this dragon. They know this dragon could net the win for LGD, but Ornn are scouring all over it.
They should be able to have it. A true shot barrage. Does it layer over? No, Leyan steps down. But Shadow, can he get the steal? He has to run away. It is get picked up by FoFo. The timer continues, and Ocean Soul will be denied for now.
I think we're rushing Baron. LGD, the pings are going down. They are rushing towards this objective with the resets coming through from Ornn, but I don't think it's going to be quick enough. FoFo didn't need to back, and LGD may not be able to finish this before Ornn collapses.
And Cube and FoFo both have TP. Call the Forward God is almost up and available. LGD need to be careful where they stand. Teleport being used by Xiye to join the play as FoFo walks in. Garvey there to zone. Blast Cone taken. But Baron, you're right. It is so slow being taken even with Kramer. Health bars from Rare Adam in account. Cube forward, going is Mark as FoFo's over the wall. That's a paddle star though, as now with no support down, you have numbers advantage, but the equalizer separates LGD. The spin for Garvey, he's in the middle of all of them. He survived for so long. Health bars be damned. FoFo jumping back in. He's taken away Garvey's Renekton. He's trying to slice and dice. He's now going on to Mark. Gets the stun down. It's reset city for FoFo. Becoming Ezreal. Now on top of Shadow. Here we go. Arcane shift. No, it's a Zoe time. And Rare Adam were given space to get the reset for FoFo.
And LGD looked like they had the fight. They'd managed to ride it, put it so that then they had that front to back style and could maybe work through Ornn. But at the end, FoFo manages to get onto Kramer as the Arcane shifts forward. He gets the reset, he gets the damage, and once Kramer goes down, there's no consistent damage left to deal with the Divine Sunder, Blade of the Rune King Viego.
Dude, FoFo didn't even have the Hysterics gauge. That was a 2.5 item Viego that just ran this fight, and he was the first one to get engaged on.
Yeah, and you see it there, right? Ends up using the ult to get over the wall, so he's able to escape. And then, watch as this fight unfolds, right? Because watch Kramer. He's in a fantastic spot here where he's going through Cube. He's got this front to back, and then Arcane shifts forward here, which means he's caught out in the middle of everyone, and FoFo then starts to get these resets. If Kramer had actually been able to get back over the wall, back to safety, maybe LGD might have been able to close out this fight with the damage, but Arcane shifting forward while stunned means that Ornn are able to close out that fight.
And because you get the first kill, I mean, Sovereign's Domination, the passive of Viego, works based on the fact that every time someone dies, you get that health regen, and it's massive. You get the reset within fights, and that's a Viego's dream, who now has 3 items himself, and Baron picked up by Rare Adam. They are not out of this game as Kramer tries to poke down, but this inner turret, not long for the world.
Yeah, and now Ornn looking like they might be able to push us to a game number 3. LGD, they had their moment to shine, but now Ornn, we're cresting the 30-minute mark. They're in control.
Equalizer zones them off. Cube's taking the damage here. Remember, Kramer does quite a lot to these front lines. Trouble Bubble connects once again on top of Cube. But for now, LGD are holding strong. The poke damage in the backline. Garvey's tanking it up. Shadow walking forward. Marcus reset and joining the fray once more.
LGD, the turret is looking so low. They need to get these cannons, but 1-2 shots more is going to be all she wrote. The turret goes down.
True shot barrage is great. Cube's trying to get the hell out of there. LGD are re-engaging. Stun onto Cube. Trouble Bubble doesn't connect. LGD might just have to take this and run as Rare Adam are doing the same. Good damage here from the Ezreal, but unfortunately, Dragon's not up for a minute 20. It's not going to mean too much. LGD just have to wait and see how they go for the setup.
And this Dragon could define everything in this game. You've now got a way into the base for Ornn if they're able to win this team fight and close out this game. For LGD, if they manage to get this Ocean Soul, it would give them so much regen. These fights that have been so tense and so close could swing heavily in favor of LGD. But look, Ornn still have the Baron. They're still the ones pushing in. They have control over this mid lane, and it's going to make it difficult for LGD to contest this river.
Feels like the final fight coming up. Look at the control wards in inventory to spot out and assassinate. If you're someone like LGD, look at Xiye. He's got the Void Staff in there as well. He will blow people up as FoFo is the target on the side. The equalizer on top of Kramer. Call the Forge God. Lay it down onto Shadow. He goes golden though. Remember, he's the tank. Will he die? Flashes into the wall and he's burnt to asunder. As now Xiye caught out of position as well. Rare Adam from the brink trying to bring this to a game number 3. The flash over the wall, but FoFo's run into Kramer's hand. Maybe this fight's not done for now. Mark under turret has just brought them closer towards Kramer as well. Hung and Leyan in his fire rate. Leyan next on the menu, over the wall. Kramer's there, but you know what? From the brink of despair, they bring it right back.
Kramer was untouched that entire fight. He was able to bring it back, that Divine Sunder, giving so much healing, so much damage to this tanky front line, and now LGD will get this dragon.
Isn't that insane? It's Ocean Soul, the fight for mid to contest who was going to be moving this game forward. LGD winning it. Ocean Soul in hand. That is non-refundable. There is no transaction that beats that. And we're going to have a look again at how LGD ended up winning this.
But this is the thing, the amount of damage that's invested in towards Shadow, and everything invested towards Shadow, you now have Kramer knowing, I've got no Call of the Forge God, I've nothing that's coming my direction, I can play as far forward as I want. So once he starts to get a little bit of pressure, manages to flash over the wall, has set up Garvey to take down iBoy, who went way too deep, and without getting the reset here for FoFo, with Mark going golden, FoFo doesn't get the health back. And because of that, Kramer is able to close out this fight with Garvey playing keep away from the Rumble.
I just love this play from Garvey, having a much better game too, by the way. On this Renekton, Garvey's fulfilled his role perfectly. Picks up the last kill alongside Kramer. We now have a pause, Dagda. That was real cool. Dagda, oh my god, we're back. You know, I don't know what League of Legends, you know, deity you were praying to, but he or she has definitely, they've helped us. They've done a great service.
Yeah, so. I needed something. I just was like, I need someone to come back to me here. I can't deal with another one of them.
Imagine it was you again. You know, you go through another hour and a half. Let's, you know, knock on wood. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want a bit of an update here, LGD won the last fight. Somehow Kramer was able to position flash over the wall and keep pumping out the damage alongside Garvey. Now LGD have the Ocean Soul. They've got a gold lead, which is becoming less relevant. But more importantly, Dagda, 4.5 item Ezreal with Sorelda's Grudge. Ornn is not going to be a happy camper if he has to deal with Kramer for too long.
No, and it was the Sorelda's Grudge was actually completing the last fight, which is why we could see Kramer actually doing so much damage in that fight. Frozen Heart is the big completion here because it actually keeps him safe from FoFo in a lot of these situations. Also, just that rapid cooldown coming off from those arcane shifts and those mystic shots means he's going to be able to churn out a whole heap of damage. But you look across at his opponents, right? You've already got the Bramble Vest completed here for FoFo. That damage reduction, or healing reduction coming in as well. Cube has the full Thornmail done. Morello Nomicon completed. There is so much healing reduction for the likes of this Renekton and also for Xiye with this Divine Sunder that you have to be careful.
As they start on to FoFo, Garvey feeling confident because of the Ocean Soul. As Kramer's stepping up as well. Leyan joining in the fray. Kramer needs to hit some of these Qs. Hung actually hits away the pillar. Solar Flare connects onto the support. The equalizer doesn't do too much from Leyan. Now Mark willing to step forward. Zenith Blade doesn't connect either. Xiye not doing too much himself with the Tron Bubble. Hits onto the support. True Shot Barrage does a hell of a lot. And Kramer's damage is what we need to worry about as Garvey's gone full frontal on this one as well. Into the back. Shadows there too. Cube gets his ulti off, but they have Ocean Soul. Surely they can't lose this as Kramer Arcane shifts forward. He's getting bursted out. He's knocked up. Cube got a huge searing charge. They have Ocean Soul, Dagda. How did they lose?
Kramer arcane shift forward to finish off Leyan, but put himself in the middle of everyone on Ornn. All they had to do was play it front to back. I don't understand why Kramer went for it.
They just all ran into an Ornn's E. I mean, Xiye's going to be coming back here, but Rare Adam running for the turret. Xiye's dead. And Ocean Soul wins games, not loses them, but somehow, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to a game number 3.
I don't understand. It was right there. Kramer just ends up arcade shifting forward and just dies instantly. If we had Kramer just play that slow, play it front to back, he doesn't end up taking half his health from all the CC and everything else that came his direction, and FoFo can't kill him. Like, we saw the difference that it made in the fight just before this, where Kramer was able to stay alive. I'm baffled.
Well, Dagda, as one great man said, take it away.
Well, as we've lost Hysterics for this now. But yeah, I mean, it was on the table for LGD. Like, so the reason that that fight had started to go so incredibly well for LGD was that a lot of the big key ultimates had already been burnt, right? You don't get the follow-up for the Ornn ultimate because the Rumble ult had already been used. The Equalizer was down. FoFo wasn't really in a position to actually get access to Kramer. Up until that point, he'd positioned really well, so FoFo had to get through everyone to get on towards the Ezreal. But that last arcane shift to finish off Leyan wasn't worth it. The Rumble had nothing left in the tank that actually could have played a part in that fight. I mean, hell, even with the positioning, the Mystic Shot probably could have finished them, but the Arcane Shift meant that you got CC'd by the Rumble. You were then able to, have the you got into the Ornn not CC. Rumble was then in range to actually just give his life to kill you, and then FoFo starts to get all these refights and gets so much more out of that fight. Like, that's heartbreaking for LGD.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, but I just look at the graph. I don't know. Gotta keep it together. Like, I can't hold it. Kramer did a lot of damage in that last fight, was glorious. They picked up Ocean Soul because of it. And then they just funneled into the gap between mid lane, where mid lane outer turret was, and the wall. And Ornn's like, okay, I have a knock up, that's fine. FoFo has an AoE ultimate. Leyan didn't have his ultimate, that missed. It was a free fight, and yeah. I guess game 3 is a clean slate, isn't it? Game 3 is a clean slate, and while LGD may have a new roster, I don't know if Shadow knew what he put himself into, but Kramer sometimes can be great, and sometimes I guess there's that. So, don't know. Analyze that, Dagda. Good luck.
I mean, up until that point, LGD were in an okay spot. So maybe for game 3, they can look to do the same? Question mark.
Hey, at least we reset and everything else is off the table. Game 3 right after this, folks. We'll have a break.